What's going on, everybody? This is the Common Threads podcast with David Allen here. Very fortunate for today's episode. Have a great friend of mine on here. Known this gentleman for a handful of years. Him and I started businesses almost at a parallel time frame. So we've been able to share stories over the last couple years, the dark times, the good times, the fun times, all that stuff. And, as building businesses progress with me, my team, and my companies, I try to continue to add good people to my life and my network, to really bounce ideas back and forth too, and just talk about experiences that I have. Because one thing I've learned in business is everybody's going through similar things, similar experiences. And even though it may be a different industry, a different product, a different service, whatever it may be, the core foundation of business is going to always operate the same. And so I'm very excited about this next guest here. And hopefully give you a lot of information, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So Ben Fisher here, the CEO, president of Big Fish Roofing Company, and he has his hands in a million other things, and we'll get to talk about all those throughout the podcast. So Ben, we appreciate you being here, man. I'm very excited about this, and I know we put this together last minute with you, but I know you're the type of guy that's always interested in kind of crazy deadlines. So man, thanks for being on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been an honor and a privilege to get to know you, especially intimately, kind of over the last 6 years. I remember when you were a kid and you're friends with my cousin. I remember coming over when I came over to visit Finleyville. We'd go play at the baseball field and play home run derby. Yeah. I always was a big shot because I was 3 or 4 years older than you, and I got to hit the home run, so that was cool.
I actually forgot. I mean, I guess I've known you for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Luke and I actually graduated high school together, went to middle school, elementary school, all that stuff together, and played Little League football together. So it's been a very, very long time, and it's just exciting to, knowing him, knowing our relationship, the future of everything, and just watching you grow your business has been really, honestly, inspiring for me, because you're doing a lot of things that I want to do. You're continuing to elevate your brand. You're never satisfied, essentially, because there's always that hunger that you have to continue to grow and be successful. And a lot of businesses get to a certain level and they get into cruise control, or they're maybe at just a different stage in their life where, hey, they've reached X amount a year in revenue, or they're happily paid throughout the year. And maybe it's the tail end of the life, or they have little kids, or they have different priorities at different stages in business, which is the benefit of owning your own business. You really get to dictate, which route you want to go. So I think that's kind of a great way to start, just to kind of get an overall idea of your mindset on business in general, and just kind of where you are now, where you see yourself wanting to go. And honestly, if you just kind of want to dive into the story of what got you here, because it's been a short amount of time to be this successful and been doing this well for yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started up just like a lot of us probably, in a regular suburban middle-class family. I had the opportunity to be the first grandson in my family to be, go to college and graduate. I did not do that. I tried college twice and couldn't sit still and couldn't figure out why I was here. I was just trying to please everybody else, and realized that there was something more out there. And I got my first real job in car sales, and I was 18 years old, and I was just fascinated by, it was the money. I saw an ad in the paper. It said you can make $100,000 a year. And I remember as a kid, everyone talked about that was the number, and so I said, oh, well, there it is. I was working at a grocery store making $5 an hour, and all right, sounds cool. Let's, hey, Mom, I'm dropping out of college and I'm gonna go sell cars. Yeah. So it's kind of where it started. How did
that conversation go? I know that's always been a challenge with me, my folks, right? And oftentimes as an entrepreneur, you see a vision way different than anybody else sees the vision. And as myself, I trust myself more than I trust anybody else. Even in a leadership role, that's somebody that's done it for 30, 40, 50 years. I am confident in myself and my skill set that I could do better. And that's never an arrogant or self-absorbed thought. It's just the trust that I'm willing to put in the work, and I'm willing to educate myself, and I'm willing to figure it out to get there. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, I know it was a very difficult standpoint for myself and my dad. So, I mean, was your mom okay with it? I mean, that's a very difficult thing for a parent, I would assume.
Yeah, well, I mean, my parents weren't college educated either, so or they weren't, school. They some of them went to school. Some of my mom's brothers and sisters, they all went to school, but it wasn't like it wasn't like a thing nowadays. So like it was more of like I felt like I was disappointing them because like I had the opportunity to do it, right? I had all the intellect in the world. I had all this, definitely. I just couldn't sit still enough to actually just finish. I had those same troubles, even through elementary school and middle school. I would be the guy that, when the teacher would write something on the board wrong, I would say, hey, you spelled that wrong. And, kind of like the class clown, I was young. I went to kindergarten, when I was 4, because my mom needed a daycare for me. And I was just turning 5. My birthday's on September 1st. So I was the youngest kid in my class. So I was always fighting for attention. I was never the biggest or the strongest. And I look back and I think, well, those are some of my greatest traits is the fact that I think I've always had to be like the underdog. I've always felt like the underdog. And even today, when everyone tells me, oh, how great you're doing and this and that, I still feel like I'm the underdog. And I still feel that I got something to prove. And, through high school, I remember starting to see things, that my parents would be doing, that my friends would be doing, that, other adults were doing. And I'd be like, you should be doing it that way. Or I think you could do this, because to me, everybody was just kept beating their head up against the wall. And I was like, why don't you do things like this? Or like, why do you keep going to work doing the same thing over and over again? And they all, my mom was, worked at a hospital, 8 to 5. And my dad, I have 2 dads. I have a stepdad and my biological father, who I'm both very close with. My stepdad was a union steel person. And, so that union mentality, again, hard worker, right? Hard worker. But came home and then and then had to go back and do it again, right?
Yeah, they had the same expectation on a daily basis, and it was so structured for them, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole different way to operate life.
We had dinner. I mean, we get home from school at 3. My dad would get home at 4. Guess what? We had dinner at 4 o'clock. We'd have grilled cheese and hamburgers, steak that was well done. Didn't really have a whole lot of money like we do today. We're eating out all the time and having a good life. But it was like, don't do anything different, man. Just go to work your 35 years, 40 years, get your pension and just live a great life. And it just never clicked with me. I couldn't figure out why would anybody want to do that? And they all thought I was the crazy one. And I figured I was the crazy one until I got to be about 35 years old, about 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, oh, see, I was just destined for this. Nobody could figure out a path for me. And that's why, the teachers would say, hey, you got to go to the, get Ritalin. And I was ADD, but I never got diagnosed officially, but
right.
They just didn't know what to do with me because I was always just, kind of, being a little bit loud, acting out a little bit. And I always had a better way. And my mom always, we still joke about it because I still say, hey mom, why don't you do things this way? I'm starting to learn now. It's like, hey, okay, that's my mom. She's 60 years old, and it's like, yeah, let's just love each other now. So
well, that's hard too. I mean, I was telling someone the other day I had lunch with my dad last week, and actually we were talking a little bit earlier today, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'll have kids till I'm 40. And the first thing he said was that it's too old. And it's like, well, look, I am different than you. I am growing up in a different time than you are. And I also look at life and values and you're here on earth for a short amount of time in the scheme of how long things have been around. I want to maximize the time in my prime ages of enjoying what I do on a daily basis. I don't want to have to go and report somewhere every single day, clock in, clock out. I don't care how much money I'm making. I don't care, hey, 80 grand a year, 70 grand a year is salary, whatever it is, healthcare benefits, all that stuff. I don't know how long I'm going to live. So I don't want to invest in a 401 where I always tell people I don't want to be a millionaire when I'm 70. I just don't. If it takes that long to get there, okay, it is what it is. That's the course that it happens. But I want to be 40 and being able to do what I want to do. I want to be 45 and take care of my kids and take on vacation and do whatever. And it's such a different mindset now than when our parents' generation. And I think that's just the natural evolution of society, life, and all those things. And so it's just such an interesting dynamic. And if you look at where you are now and where, whenever you were working for someone else, there's such a cap at a certain point in your life. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand is the freedom. If you're willing to put in the work at an early stage in business, working the long hours, doing things that other people don't want to do, it sets you up for a longer term success and a lot more freedom.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's definitely the path that I took. I will say one thing about my parents is I watched them work every single day. They taught me hard work. They taught me to show up on time. My mom always made me have a suit on every time I'd go in and get an interview. She told me never to quit a job until I had another one. So those qualities, like I always, tell people always ask, well, why are you so successful? Well, it's because I watched my mom go to work every single day. And it's like, and she always said, show up on time and just do what you say you're going to do, and just always be the best for your boss. And so I got, and I still do that. Not the problem now is I don't have a boss, but I just keep driving. I keep going.
Which those essentially are the core foundation of, right, as an entrepreneur. The little things that my parents were the same way. As you're talking about those things, it was, you always look someone in the eye when you shake their hand. You always say yes sir, no sir. Mr. or Mrs. I was never allowed to call my friends' parents by their first name. Little stuff like even the weekend. I was telling somebody in high school. I think I probably missed 5 days of high school because I was just the fear of my dad was like, if you're not sick throwing up, you go to school, which now I think that's shifting with the pandemic and the mindset on stuff. So that's toast for sure. But, Saturdays I wasn't allowed to sleep in. I don't think I ever slept past 8 o'clock in the morning on middle school, elementary school. I just wasn't allowed. High school when I'd stay at friends' houses on a weekend, if I didn't go to bed that night, I knew the next day was going to be hell because I wasn't allowed to get up. And then I started feeling guilty because my dad would be outside at 7 or 8 in the morning doing yard work on the weekend. And I'd be like, okay, that's my dad. I should be out there helping him, and should be because what he instilled in me as a younger child and as I've grown to adulthood, you start understanding that the foundation that our parents really put into us probably are the big reason why we're being where we are.
It's definitely a unique combination. I think it's a beautiful combination. I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, and I was telling this story to somebody. It was like, because I'm always trying to figure out why, why was my path the way it was, because. So I worked in the grocery store when I was in high school. My mom made me get that job when I was 15 years old because, I thought I was going to be the all-star football player, basketball player, and here it turns out I wasn't really that. I didn't want to put the work. I didn't really want to run around all the time. Baseball in elementary school and middle school was cool because you didn't have to run.
You just stand there, yeah.
As soon as you got to high school, man, they started making you run. I'm like, man, I can't see any value in running. I just want to play the game. Yeah. Just put me in, coach. So, she's like, if you're not playing sports, you're going to be working. And she made me save half of my paycheck. By the time I was 18 years old, I probably had $5 or $6 grand in the bank, which
is insane. That's a lot of money
and because it was all mine. Nobody handed it to me. I had to pay for my own gas. I had to pay for my own car insurance. We didn't have cell phones in high school. I was allowed to have one of those because they were probably expensive back then. I remember getting one when I was, at the car dealership. But so my first job was at the grocery store. I was a cashier and a bagger. But I got bored at that, so then they put me in the back and stock shelves, and then I got to work in the produce department a little bit, and I was just helpful. I was just wanted to be helpful, and I wanted to make my mom proud because that's where she worked a long time ago, and they all kind of knew her. So I didn't want to tarnish the name. I didn't want to make her disappointed. So I worked really hard at that. The day I turned 18, they promoted me to front desk manager to where I had to do the closing duties. I had to count the money, balance the deposit slips, count down the lottery, the cigarettes.
That's a lot for an 18-year-old. I mean, that's a.
But I didn't even know it was a big deal. And now I'm looking back, I'm thinking, wow, they trusted me with that. I said, that's a big deal. I mean, I was counting down $15,000-$20,000. I didn't even know what it was. It wasn't mine, so I didn't even look at it like, oh man, I'm gonna put this in my pocket. No, I was counting paper like I was counting blank sheets of paper. It didn't matter to me. But I learned, I was good at math. I just learned some weird basic skills that when I look back now, I'm like, man, I needed those. Customer service, the grocery store, that front desk, when you're selling lottery and cigarettes and dealing with returns and problems, it's like, yeah, back then I was just, when do I clock out? When do I clock out? But it's like, wow, those are the things that kind of made me. And I was telling, everyone, because I'm a sales guy by nature. Sometimes I think of myself as a marketing guy, but I cut my teeth in sales. I got that car sales job, and I look back to this. When did I figure out that I like that? And it was back to Little League baseball. and I don't know if you guys had this. I'm sure you guys did. I grew up in Canton, Ohio, so you have fundraisers, and you had to sell the little boxes of M&Ms and Snickers bars, and they were all $1 a box. Back then they're probably $2 now, I would assume. But so me and my cousin, first of all, I always wanted the prizes, right? So like the competitor in me was like, I got to win. I want to be the guy in the money machine at the gymnasium, and I want to be putting that stuff in, and that's what I'm doing it for. So I would go door to door in my neighborhood, and I got
That's when you had the magazines, right? Is that what you're talking?
No, I actually just had a box of candy.
Okay,
just a box of candy. I did the magazine thing. The magazine thing was too boring for me. I love going door to door, man. I wanted to talk to people. And I would watch all my friends and like my sisters, and they'd be selling one candy bar at a time. They'd sell 30 box, and that was it. They were happy to just get their box. That's all you had to do was sell 30 of them. Well, I mean, I knew my grandma would buy 15. I mean, just because she was my grandma, right? So like that wasn't that much of a challenge, I really enjoyed going door to door talking to people, and I don't know why. And so I would sell 5-6 boxes, but it wasn't just one at a time. It was like, hey, I know you got kids and I know you got grandkids, and here, why don't you buy 10 or 15 of them so you have some stuff to pass out? And I would just figure out ways to sell more to less. That way I didn't have to do the work, because I didn't really, I watched my parents work that hard. I was like, I don't want to work that hard. So how do I do it easier? And that was one way I did it. And I have a funny story about, me and my cousin were out one day, and we were hungry. We wanted some candy. We didn't have no money. We had the money that was in the thing, but we can't take that. That's not ours. So we went to a guy's house, and I said, hey, Matt, and I said, these candy bars are $1, right? And he was 2 years younger than me. I think I was probably 10 at the time, 11. He's probably 9 or 8. I said, we're going to tell this guy that 2 candy bars for $3, $1.50 each, okay? Because what we're going to do is we're going to take the $3, we're going to give him the 2 candy bars. That $1, we're going to put back in and we're going to sell ourselves a candy bar, and we're going to split that. And we did it.
Sure.
And we pulled it off, and the customer, the homeowner didn't, they just did what we were saying. They probably knew. Now that I look back, they're probably like, whatever, I'm just going to give this kid his $3. So me and my cousin, just like in a commercial, I could see Chris Callen right now doing the creative on it. We're sitting on the front porch of another neighbor's house, enjoying this candy bar, right? 2 weeks goes by. I just thought it was the best deal in the world, man. 2 weeks goes by. My mom knocks on my bedroom door. Hey, I got to talk to you. What? What did you do anything illegal or wrong when you were out selling candy bars? I go, no. Well, your Aunt Paula just called me and said that Matt had to confess that we stole $1 from one of the guys that we were selling candy bars to. I said, no, Mom, we didn't steal $1. I specifically told him it was $3 for 2 candy bars, and we took the extra $1, and I actually just bought a candy bar. So I'm actually just helping everybody. I was helping that guy, give him great service. I probably told him a funny joke, and we wanted to enjoy a candy bar. She made me get in that car, drive to that guy's house, knock on his door, and apologize and give him his $1 back.
Yeah.
And I was like, so then I just felt dirty. I felt ashamed. I felt bad. I was like, wow. I said, why did that happen? I said, but I get it. We come from a good Christian family, and they just, profit's a dirty word, I guess, but Americans over the last 100 years have just been systemized to where only the business owners can care about profit. The low level employee, they think that if you sell a car for $1,000 more than what the sticker says, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like,
that you're ripping them off.
Yeah. So that was my first, when I look all the way back, sometimes I always say it's car sales, but no. It goes all the way back even deeper than that, to that candy bar story.
Yeah. So I when I was in elementary school, I don't know if did you ever hear of Gabriel Brothers?
Oh, yeah.
So in elementary school, my mom, we shopped at Gabriel Brothers when I was little, and I would go there and I would buy candy, and I would buy boxes of Skittles. The entire box was, I think, $1 or something like that, or $3. It was a couple bucks. So then I would take that candy, and I would buy Airheads. I would buy whatever, the blow pops with the gum inside of them or whatever they were. And I would take those to school, and I would sell packs of Skittles for 50 cents after I bought an entire box for $2 or whatever the cost was. And then I also, if you remember creepy crawlers, the little, you would buy, they were little gel things, and you would buy a little conventional oven, and it was a toy, and you would get these these gels that you put into it, and it'd be a scorpion or a snake.
It's kind of like an easy bake for guys.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So I would make those, and then I would take them. I'd sell spiders for 10 cents, scorpions for $1, whatever. And I ended up getting in trouble, and they called my mom, and I was in like 3rd grade or something like that, and I was known as the candy guy, or I was known as the creepy crawler guy. And so it's funny. I started at an early age, but I didn't understand. I don't know if it was I didn't understand the value of $1, but I never saved money. I was the type that if I wanted something, I went out and bought it. And I still am that way. I've gotten better at curbing that, obviously building a business and realizing how much more important, the money is in pocket or investing in the business in some capacity, especially at an early stage in business. But it's crazy that looking back and thinking about these things in life, and you look at the experience you had selling candy bars, and as you're telling that story, I started thinking about the magazine where you can go and sell the toys or gifts or stuff like that, or the Sarah's chocolates. And I never realized, honestly, until having this conversation, that those are business exchanges, right? And that was the modern day lemonade stand at the time. It was an opportunity, and I always thought, well, looking at it as a whole is like, oh, this is just my parents making me do something. And then you look at it now, 2 things I just thought of is, one, good job for Sarah's Candy and those companies for doing that. And how much money did they probably make by peddling it off on kids?
Couple million street hustlers.
Right? So from that standpoint, kudos to them. It's making me start to rethink business a little bit. But I think because my family weren't entrepreneurs, and we struggled growing up. We didn't look as if it was the case, but as I got older, I understood the dynamics of life and business, and what my parents sacrificed financially to allow us to feel that we weren't not poor, but we were very low middle class.
Yeah, poor by today's standards, for sure.
Correct. Yeah, and then you start realizing the sacrifices of that. But there's so many things that happen in life that you really can correlate to business, and I think some of these are more tangible experiences. And I think just understanding business, I could have the same conversation with someone else and they wouldn't see that aspect of, okay, that was actually really beneficial to get you started and everything. So it's kind of cool hearing you talk about that, because it makes me start thinking differently in my everyday life and everyday business. So it's a cool story to hear that.
Well, yeah, it was fun to even kind of work myself backwards. And I took where I'm at now, and I just went all the way back as far as I could remember to when did I sell that first product? When did I sell my, and again, I sell myself, that's kind of like what I do. But then as far as business goes, there's a couple parts of being a business person. Obviously you have to be able to sell a product, but then you also have to be continuously improving. And I'll take that first job that I had at the grocery store when I got that, when I was in charge of the front desk and the closing operations, and, the grocery store would close at 10 o'clock. And the girl that was training me, the old lady that was training me, she was probably not that old because I was 18. If I look back, she was probably only 35 or 30,
right.
But she seemed like she was 60 at the time. And she would always, everything we get done, everybody leave at 10. You have to wait for the produce department, the meat department, everybody's cleaning up their departments. The front end, just cleaning up all the money and wrapping everything up. And 10:30 is when we got out of there. Well, when I started closing, I was like, I was getting pretty good at this. I was like, doing it. And I was like, I was like done like 10:10. I was getting done at 10:10. And I was like, I was looking around for something to do. I was like, I just want to go home. I was getting $5 an hour. I couldn't understand like trying to clock, I didn't care about the extra 15 minutes making that extra $1. Like, I just wanted to go home. It was 10:30 at night. I got school the next morning. I was only allowed to work 2-3 days a week because of labor laws. And I just wanted to get home. I didn't even want to be there. My mom's making me have a job, So, but listen, I'm here. I'm going to get it done, man. I want to be efficient. So between me and the one cashier, because at the end of the day, they only have one cashier left, and no customers would even come in past 9:30. Usually, it was in a small town, and I was like, this is boring. We're bored up here, But like everyone else has got to do their thing, and I get it. So I started working with the cashier, saying, hey, like if we get all this stuff done, we can get out of here early. Let's. My goal is let's leave at 10:15. Yep. All right, well, me and the cashier, we had everything set up, we had everything done, right? And I said, we even had that drawer counted down at 9:45, and we knew that if a customer came in, we were gonna have to do it again. But like we took that chance because it was only like 1 out of 10 times that a customer would straggle in at past 9:45. Right. So I was like, cool, we had this plan. A couple weeks goes by, we had it down to pat, man, we're all done at 10:15. Well, we're done at 10:15, we're standing around. Guess what? Well, the produce department, the deli, everybody else is still back to their old school ways of just, hey, we get done at 10:30, we're gonna scrub until 10:30. which I knew that, man, they're just taking their time because it's just what they've always done.
They're putting it off to make sure they maximize. Yep.
So then the salesman had to come in to me and say, well, if I really want to get out at 10:15, I got to go talk to all these other departments and tell them my plan. Say, hey, I got this plan. I can get us out of here at 10:15 because I knew, hey, what's in it for them, right?
And a 15-minute extra and when I was an employee and I worked for someone, getting off early was the greatest feeling in the entire. It felt like you would hit the lottery.
It was way more worth it than that $1 you were going to make for staying there.
Yes.
And I always looked at it too. I was like, well, we're clocking out. The business owner. I mean, I'm thinking about it now. The business owner should have been pleased. So I had to go to every department, produce, deli, the back end part, like, and get them all to buy in. Like, hey, guess what? We can leave at 10. They're like, come on, kid. Nah, we've been doing this for. I'm telling you, I'm getting all my stuff done. You know, I'm sharp. You know, I got the math skills done. I'm actually working. It was what it was. I was actually working. I wasn't just, messing around. So they finally got all their buy-ins, right? And they're like, you better be ready, kid, at 10:15. If we're all up here, you said we better be leaving because you're not going to hold us up. And we were, and that's what I call continuous improvement. And that's where process improvement, not only being a good salesman of getting people to be able to do what I wanted them to do, but actually having the plan, the mindset to think about it. And I know it's a silly story, but when I look back, that was the first time when I actually was able to take an idea and like pull it off. And I literally just had this realization kind of like, I don't know, 6 weeks ago. And I was like, wow. I said, like, why am I like the way I am? And that was one of those process improvement stories.
So I want to continue on your career and your journey, but before we get there, you made a couple points, and I want to hit home on those for the people that are listening, because I think obviously every time we have a podcast, we want to make sure that people are pulling out different nuggets of information and things like that. Talk to me about your thought process comparing and I think some people still have this mindset is, hey, as an employee, you have a grocery store, as a business owner, whatever it may be, your hours are be here till 10:30, right? And that's what they were paying you till then, even if the store closed at 10. I think, and especially in today's world, it's more based off of be a productive employee or teammate, and then you get the perks. If you're a good business owner or a good leader, hey, that extra 15 minutes to send somebody home early brings a lot more value to them, right? So then you start thinking the quality of life, the happiness of them working for you or with you. Talk to me about how you portray that into your business with your team and people. I know it's a different scenario. They're not necessarily on a roof to a certain time. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Talk to me about how you coach, how you manage, and your expectations, and what you genuinely believe in is the right way for you to grow your business.
Well, the key word is grow your business. And I think at a lot of these places, the grocery store or the McDonald's or the place that's just always been there that has a set process and a set system, it's just a well-oiled machine. It doesn't allow for that type of innovation anymore, So when you have a growing business, to me, it's easy to constantly keep improving because we got to keep improving because we're never actually going to ever hit that final destination. To me, I'm never going to. The ideas and the process improvement and the improving experiences are never going to stop. So I get why at a grocery store, it's kind of like, or at a union steel shop, it's that mentality, or at a hospital, it's like, man, they have to do it. You get so big and they have to just put controls into place. And it's unfortunate because then all it does is damper the American ingenuity from, regular people. And then you get told no enough times, and guess what? It'll beat you down.
Absolutely.
And my whole life, from the time I could talk, I'm sure that I was trying to always say, "There's a better way. There's a better way," and no one ever put me in the entrepreneurial school, because they didn't even know what that looked like. And but yeah, that's what I tell my people. One of our core values at the Big Fish Contracting Company is service to others. We're team players who serve our communities with a smile, striving to create raving fans and bring value to every interaction. Customers, coworkers, and vendors come first. And like, it's so true. And it's like, it's alive. Our business is alive. Everyone knows the story about McDonald's, especially the one in Monongahela. When you go in there, you order the ice cream cone, the machine don't work.
I think that's every McDonald's.
I know.
I don't even think they sell ice cream.
Yeah,
it's a marketing tool.
Yeah. 50-cent cones. Oh yeah, we're out after you ordered like 3 Big Mac meals, and like you just really want the cone to like eat it on the way home because that thing doesn't you have to eat it on the way home. So it's like the only time you can get dessert before you get the lunch. But that's just the difference between these systemized American businesses, versus companies like Apple and Amazon that are just constantly growing. Look how big they are. And Tesla, I don't even know what Tesla does. I don't even know how much money, how they have so much money. I know what they're trying to do. I just don't know how they actually get money.
Right.
Maybe somebody can explain that to me one day, and maybe we'll talk about that on another podcast.
For sure. And I actually, ironically, I was watching Elon Musk last night on Joe Rogan's podcast. I watched about an hour and 40 minutes, and I'm going to catch the back half later today. But it is crazy. I mean, I try to study the progressive businesses, the Apples, the Teslas, the entrepreneurs, Elon Musk, and so. And even Rogan, I think he's one of the most successful, intelligent people and incredible. He's such an entrepreneur, and I don't think people credit him to that. He's been able to take a platform, turn it into another platform, and then turn it into the largest media company, I would guess you could say that, or audience in the entire world. So it is kind of cool. And I think there are things that you can always take from a bigger business. It doesn't matter if you do $100,000 in a year in annual revenue or $100 million in annual revenue. You can always learn from other people. And I think that's what's really, really cool is figuring out how to take something that's always been positioned in the same way for X amount of years and figuring out how do you grab that and how do you shake that up just to improve the process a little bit? How do you improve the experience? And I think what you said in the, the core values of your company is you put everybody else before you, right? And you make sure that the people that are working with you as your teammates are taken care of. You make sure the customers, your clients who are the ones committing their hard-earned money to say, hey, I entrust this company to do the best job that they can do based off of what they told me, right? And I think that's really the key foundation of business, especially in a world where you can instantly be exposed for situations. Now there's companies like, we talked about this the other day, like a Comcast, where they just don't care about any human being on earth. I think they just want to make money.
Well, they have a monopoly.
Right.
I mean, there's no competition. I mean, right. Me and you I can't even begin to fathom how I could start like a cable company. Well, guess what? They're going to be losing soon because now everyone's making their own.
Absolutely. We're
doing that today right now. We're creating our own content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're a couple guys in a little place in Mount Washington, and we're just we're just rapping, man.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's cool too. And even we were talking about we had a podcast the other day with Derek and Chris, my marketing business partners were both on. And
I know those guys.
You know them very well. And Derek he brought up that Paramount, how they're going with the streaming service and everything. And it's just, I love seeing that. I love the Disney Plus stuff. I love, I love innovation and I love change, because change and competition is great for an end consumer. It gives you variety, it gives you options. And it also shows you that people can make more money by doing different things and adding different services. So I love business. I love change. I love growth. I love personal growth. I love development, all those things as well. So, kind of piggybacking off of what you said, you started out, you were in the grocery store, go to selling cars. Where do you go from there? How does the life progress in that scenario?
So the selling cars was, is an interesting concept, because you had to pay $500 to do their 2-week training. And back then, I had $5 or $6, $7 grand in my bank account. I just got done paying for a semester at college. I forget what it cost, but that money went down the drain because I sat there for about 2 weeks. And so I get to the training at the car dealership, and it's kind of like down the road from their, actual where the car dealership is, and it's in a room, and it's like ugly and it's gross. And there's like 15 of us. There's a combination of super young kids like me, and then there's a combination of like really old, like just weird looking dudes as well. And we all paid this $500, and we had to start role playing, right? They started making you, talk,
which is the most awkward role playing. I did that in medical sales, and role playing is the most phony, fake. I hated it. I was awful at it. You may have been really good. I hated that.
Well, I knew that I wanted to make $100,000, so became good at it. Yeah. Well, everyone else couldn't get past it, right? So then eventually people get weeded out, right? So people just stop showing up. They paid their $500. They're like, oh, I can't do this. And now when I look back, man, that was a brilliant way to get the funnel. They were doing funnels before funnels were like, before Russell, what's his name? Brunson made them popular. So then by the end of the first week on that Friday, there was like, I went from a class of 15 to like a class of 7. I'm like, all right. And then at the end of that day on Friday, we still knew we had one more week. They said, hey, just to let you guys know, we're glad that you made it this far. If you make it 90 days at the car dealership, we'll give you that $500 back. And then we're all cheering, you know, again, they wanted us to pump us up for the weekend. Man, it was brilliant. When I look back, it's like, I want to figure out how to do that at my company. I'll figure out a way. Once the brand's big enough, I'll get people wanting to pay to like come and learn and then I'll really get superstars, right?
Yeah.
And I was a superstar in the making. I just didn't know it. And then we went through that next week. And, you know, I did everything I was supposed to do. I got onto the showroom floor. You know, there's 30 guys all dressed up in suits, man. They all slick back hair. I was just like, oh my. I was like, I've arrived. These guys were not like my parents. And these guys were fast talking and they were doing this high energy. I was like, this is the coolest place. It's like Wolf of Wall Street, man. It felt like a Wolf of Wall Street room. And then I was just like, wow. And I did good. I sold like 12 cars my first month. I made $5,000. I ran home and I'm kind of embarrassed about it now, but I really bragged and said, see, Mom, look, I made more money than you did. And now I look back and I'm like, man, that's not the best way to handle it. Right. But again, I just wanted to prove everybody wrong.
Because you hear it.
Well, because I just kept being telling, you don't know what you're talking about, kid. You don't know what you're talking about. And, but then after the first month, then the second month came and I was like, wow, I had a pocket full of money. I'm still living at home. My mom did charge me rent. I actually moved out of my mom's house and actually moved into my biological dad's house because I didn't want to listen to the rules at my mom's house anymore. And I thought, if I moved in with my dad, it'll be cool. And, but still, like, I had to pay some rent, you know what I mean? Like, it was $100, $200, but I still had all this money and I didn't know what to do with it. I was like,
how old were you at the time?
I was 18 years old.
Okay.
I first semester in college, I dropped out. I think I went 2 weeks. It was like March of 2000. And so the second month come and it was April and I sold like 10 cars and made like $4,000. I was like, still, man, bunch of money. I just kept going down though. And I started hanging out with these guys and I was more enamored with hanging out with these guys who I looked up to. And they one guy invited me to his house and at the time, I thought it was like a $10 million house. It was 6,000 square feet. I do know that now because I look back and I know what houses are. It was a 6,000 square foot house.
Which is pretty big.
And this was, 20 years ago. I mean, this was a big house. Back then, I think he told me he paid like $450,000 for it. And I was like, how do you do that? And this guy was selling 40 cars a month, making $40,000 a month. I mean, it was wild. And I just wanted to be like him. And I stopped putting the work in because I just wanted to like follow him around and listen to him. Well, I did that. I just stopped making money. And then I got fired because at the car dealership, man, it's all about numbers. They don't care who you are, what you got, Like they're paying you to be there. And it was commission only, but they didn't care because they want to get more fresh bodies to that training class, right? They're trying to find the 1 out of 100 that's actually going to be able to be there for 20 years and make a career out of it. And, I ended up getting fired. I came in and out of dealerships for the next 3 years because I was like, man, I didn't want to give up.
How long were you there before you got fired?
6 months.
Okay.
6 months. And then probably a combination of like, hey, we were going in the winter. They probably cut the bottom, 10 or 20%. I'm thinking now as a sales manager, as a CEO of a company, how this works. But then I went to another car dealership. Sometimes I'd go to a restaurant in between in the wintertime, and I'd go start another car dealership this following spring because the spring market was hot. The car show in Cleveland was coming out. It was like the big time to do it. And my mom's like, why don't you just go get a regular job like me and your dad and just, go clock in and clock out. And that commission stuff, man, it's dangerous. See. And I believed it. But I was still doing it, man, because I could not stomach clocking in and clocking out. Yeah. I just couldn't stomach it. Well, that happened for about 3 years, and that same dealership actually hired me back 2 more times. I've worked there, but they also fired me two more. So I got hired there and fired there 3 times.
Yeah.
At Mullinax Ford North Canton, if anybody's listening. It's not an AutoNation store, just so you guys understand that. But that's kind of like, and Grant Cardone, I don't know if you know who Grant Cardone is.
Of course.
I was 18. So my second dealership job, they say, hey, we got this guy coming to Cleveland. He's putting on a seminar. It costs $300. You got to pay for it though. Oh, here we go again. Listen, I'm going to keep investing, man, because like I need it. I need to make that $100,000 so bad.
And that's what you look at it as. It's an investment. It's not I have to spend $300.
No, I didn't care about the money.
Right. And that's what I think a lot of things too is. There are opportunities out there to soak up money or soak up education by paying for a service, and especially now that everybody's doing a class. And I think there's a lot of valuable information out there now that I think there's a lot of free valuable information too, or there's a lot of good entrepreneurs that are willing to help people that are true inspired or interested people. Nothing more I hate is when, hey, can you help me out with the business? I have a couple questions. And I get stuff like that all the time, and I love helping people. But I hate when someone starts out as simple as, how do you start an LLC? How do you do this? It's like, if you can't figure out how to Google and do steps 1, 2, and 3, you're wasting my time, you're wasting your time, just go work somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And so I got to the second cardio show. I said, I'm going to do it right this time. I'm not going to focus on all the glitz and the glamour. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to get re-educated. I need more training. I just thought it was me. When I got fired, I thought, I'm not good enough. I need more training. So this guy named Grant Cardone, this is in 2001. He's at a seminar in Cleveland. I paid $250, $300 to go see him. He's the most energetic, high-flying guy I've ever witnessed in my life. He was like the guy that I looked up to at the dealership times 10. I want to be like that guy. I don't know why. I just want to be like that guy. I want to be on stages. I want to be up and down, high-fiving people. And he was talking about relationship selling, how to close a deal. And I was like, man, this is good stuff. Oh, and by the way, the hook, my tapes are in the back. They're $1,500. Cassettes or CDs. I think he had both at the time, because it was like still in the cassette CD world, And I was like, oh man, that's a lot of money, man. I don't know. And like everyone else is like, you could tell everyone else in the room was poor. If you were good, you weren't there because you were out busy selling cars. I'm looking back now and I'm putting all this together. I'm like, man, I said, yeah. Okay. So I bought them. Well, I listened to the first one, just like everybody does. There was a set of 15 of them though. I listened to the first one, got all fired up. I got this. I don't need any more of this. Went back out. Same thing happened. Worked for 6 months, got fired. The tapes getting dusty. They're getting dusty. Fast forward 15 more years. So that was 2001. Let's say I started the Big Fish Contracting Company at the end of 2015. But about 2013, 2014, Facebook was real getting popular, and these guys were, coming out of the woodwork. Well, I see Grant Cardone just show up on my Facebook. Like, I know that guy. I remember that guy from when I was in the car dealership. Well, he's not talking about cars anymore. He's talking about real estate. And he's talking about, his books. So I'm like, man, I love that. I remember that guy. I can't believe he's reintroduced to my life, because I never went searching for him because I didn't even know that was a thing. And so I started reading his books, the 10X rule, sell or be sold. If you're not first, you're last, And I read those and I got fired up. And I was working for my uncle's roofing company, and he gave me, that was the first opportunity I ever got to do in small business.
How did you get to the roofing company?
Okay, so after I failed at the car dealership, 7, 8 times, I can't even count. I was thinking before I came here, I know I'm going to tell that story, but it just takes me, I don't know, 7, 8 times. Yeah, a lot. Way more times than anybody should. And then, that many times I had to hear my mom, are you time for a real job? So I did get a real job. Hey, Mom, I'm going to General Electric. So there's a business in Canton, Ohio, GE Money, one of their divisions. And we just go in there, sit in a cubicle and collect credit card debt. People that were behind on their JCPenney credit or their Lowe's card, or Home Depot card. Hey, sir, you're $15 past due. Can you make that payment? No. Well, then I had to come up with reasons to get them to pay, because guess what? They had stats. They had a board. There was 50 other, and most of them were girls. There was 50 other people in my department, and we had stats on who's collecting the most money and how many calls they're making. Well, Ben Fisher doesn't ever want to be last. He wants to be on the top of that leaderboard. So I figured out a way to get to that top of that leaderboard. I collected more money and made more phone calls than anybody, and I was only there for like 3 months. But then I got bored. And I couldn't sit still. I was in a cubicle, man. I was like, all right, it was fun while it lasted. And like, I kept getting up out of my seat. I kept like, I was bored. I would still get all my work done. I was still first. And then I'd take that extra 15 minutes and like go jack around. You know what I mean? And we'd talk to girls, this and that. Guess what? Well, no, that's a funny story. There was a money division, a mortgage company at GE Money. This is right before the housing crash, right before the whole mortgage crisis and all that stuff. They're like, hey, you want to sell home loans? You can get commission. Hey, Mom, guess what? GE's going to promote me into their mortgage division, and I'm going to sell home loans to people in California and in Florida and wherever else. And I didn't even know what I was talking about. I was a young kid. They just had this great training program.
Of course.
I was like a robot. I was calling people in California that had these $700,000 houses that never made one instant principal payment. They were only doing interest only. And now I look back, I was like, oh, I was part of that. I said, these companies were like we were automated. Like we were just
brainwashing you.
I never even sold one of these people. I would order appraisals. I didn't even know what I was doing. I had no idea. I'm not even a homeowner. I'm like living, my rent's like $300 or $400 a month. Like I don't even know what I'm talking about. These people, they're just so desperate to get out of their situation though, man. Like, so I'm selling mortgages. One day I show up. They wouldn't even let us, it was security through the front. They wouldn't let us go back up to our thing. They said, hey, we're closing the mortgage division down at GE.
Wow.
I go, well, can I have my credit card job back? no, you could reapply in 6 months because that's just the way GE does things. You know, when they let somebody, you know, they let a department go, it's not like they can, you know, they're just not wired that way. They can't take their best people and figure out a way to move them in because it's too big. So then I had to make the call to my mom again. Hey, Mom, yeah, you were right again, Mom. That commission job didn't work out.
Sure.
Didn't work out. So I got a job at Verizon Wireless. I'm like, all right, cool, man. Verizon, Mom, it's a real company. Dude, cell phones were starting getting popular. This is before the iPhone. This is when Blackberries were hot, or like the Motorola Qs and the chocolate, the LG chocolate, the music phone, you know. And, you know, grandmas and grandpas still didn't have a cell phone. So that was my thing. You know, that was what they were pushing. Yeah, get grandma and grandpa a cell phone because most regular people had, younger people had one, and then start selling data plans. I was at a mall kiosk at Belden Village Mall. And, dude, I was there for 3 months. And again, same thing, stats. These companies have great KPIs and scorecards and metrics, stuff that I'm trying to implement in my company now. And it's like, I was competitive, man. So guess what? I was number one again. You know, I was selling 9, 10 phones a day. The other girls were selling 3 or 4. I was out at the mall getting people there walking by to Victoria's Secret or Bed Bath & Beyond. Hey, by the way, I know you have a phone because, you know, you had it in your hand, but I bet you your grandparents don't or your mom and dad don't. Let's get them hooked up on your plan. Let's add a line. Let's add this. Let's do this, blah, 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 blah. Crushing it. Making another $5,000 a month. You know, I'm like, Mom, I made it. I was in a cubicle, man. Or not a cubicle, a kiosk. Once I did it, I was like, I'm bored again. Bored. You know, and got fired, you know, because, you know, I just started going to the food court more, talking to the girls at the store because, like, I was doing my numbers, and then they just, you know, they're just not wired for that. I was bad for the culture for the other 10 people that were just happy doing mediocre work, so they probably had to get rid of me.
Yeah. So as you're talking about, you know, the boredom that sets in and everything, and 2 things I want to talk about. One was where you mentioned the gentleman that was, you know, $40,000 a month, 6,000 square foot house, all that stuff. And how when you first went in and met this group of people and you were in awe of the success and the aura and all that stuff. So I relate that to whenever I went from in medical sales, you know, I was making, I think, $90,000, $100,000 a year to my next job, which was making $250,000 a year. So it was a massive, massive jump in a, you know, instantly. Same industry, different company, higher end product. I started selling contact lenses to cameras and lasers to eye surgeons, so a whole different game. And I remember the first conference that I went to was in Orlando, Florida. It was the Academy of Ophthalmology. And there's 10,000 plus doctors from all over the world, and it's the biggest conference in the entire world. And they rotate it throughout the United States at whatever convention centers can actually host it. And I remember the first one I go to, I was 26 years old. I think I may have just turned 27 by the time I got to the event. And I looked at everybody and I was like, holy shit, like, you know, these guys, their suits all look nice. Their hair's all put together. They're 50-year-old guys. They're 50-year-old guys that are just crisp, sharp. I think the youngest person there was probably 5 years older than me, 7 years older than me. I was the young buck that came in, and they never hired anybody that young before or shied away from it. And I was in awe. I was like, wow, these guys, like, this is where I made it, right? And then you get there, to your point, as you get there, you start making money, and you realize, all right, I'm now making, my lifetime goal was by 35 to make $250,000 a year. I made that at 26, 27 years old. And it was great. I felt that something was missing in my life. I went from the first 6 months to a year, because I had to, because of the knowledge and I'd really put time in. So I was working 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, whatever it was. Well, then after you get good at it, I was working 20 hours a week, making $250,000 a year. And I was like, okay, this is easy. And I could never understand why I just stopped caring, because money to me used to be the initial motivator. And then when you realize you have the skill set to make money, and you realize it's really not that difficult in the scheme of things, it's not fulfilling, right? So I went from chasing the dollar and trying to make a certain amount of money to, I need something that's more fulfilling, more enjoyable. And to me, that's what I consider building. And I think that's what's really cool, is the building aspect of a brand, a business, things of that nature is where the power, it's what gets you through the times of, I don't have a damn dollar to my name. I came home and I have a note on my door that the power's going to be shut off, and then all of a sudden the power's off. Water, same thing happened. Credit card collection companies calling, and it didn't faze me, because I didn't care, because I knew after studying certain entrepreneurs that was what they called the building stage, and you have to you have to be willing to give up something amazing or great to have something that you can only dream of. And that's very, very difficult, is to walk away from stability, comfort, and especially in a world where when you're a kid, you're taught, hey, what do you want to be when you're older? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a movie star. I want to be this. And then as you get to middle school and as you get to high school, you now have career days and you don't see any of those people coming in to talk to you. You see the local police chief, the local fire chief, the tax accountant, and all those things. And then as you get to, 8th grade, 9th grade, you get to high school, hey, what do you want to be? Well, why don't you be something more realistic? So it goes from as a child, have the biggest dreams you could possibly have, to as an adult or getting ready to go into adulthood, hey, have a realistic dream.
Yeah. You mean Neil Armstrong didn't come by your college and career days?
We tried getting him there and he didn't make it. So,
yeah, well,
but Joe Montana did go to my high school, so let's keep that one out.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean it's the path is definitely interesting. Speaking about money, and definitely that's what I was chasing. I wanted to make that $100,000 a year. Because that's what that's what my parents said. Hey man, that's man, you made it once you got it to be $100,000 a year. And so yeah, I chased the money, and while I was doing that, I got bored along the way. And speaking of that, I never actually made any consistent money because I kept getting fired. So I'd have splashes a month here, a month there, but because I wanted to because money I still didn't care about money. I would spend it, I was, spending it on girls. I'd spend it on my friends. I just wanted to hang out and have a good time. I went bankrupt when I was like 22 years old because I had I don't know, I look back, I'm like, man, I just feel like I should cut a check to these people. But I was like, I don't know, $2,000 or something, $3,000, but I thought it was the end of the world. Literally thought it was the end of the world. I remember filing bankruptcy, and I remember, it was just embarrassing. And I just always knew that my parents, were just so I felt like they were so disappointed. And then I was always, that whisper in my ear was like, just go get a regular job. I'm like, Mom, I just don't want to do it, man. We would just go back and forth. And I love my mom, and and half the stuff that she's always taught me has always been, it was part of who I am today. I just knew that there was this missing part. So when I was 29 years old, my uncle, who was my mom's younger brother, Uncle Mark, who from Finleyville, I got to watch him, go through, his life, and he, started, he saw a sign for $6 an hour at the on the Bridgeville exit for a roofer, and he was getting married and had a kid, and hey man, hard worker, farm life, hey, I got to go to work.
He's got an incredible story for sure.
Yeah. And so I got to watch him my whole life. And then I knew he eventually elevated through his career, started his own business, Lego Roofing and Construction. And he's like, hey, he knew that I always was in the sales marketing. We always talked about fun stuff, and he was always my fun uncle. And he's had me on the roof many times, the 10 or 15 years before that, slave laboring up there, shoveling roofs off. And we all knew Ben Fisher wasn't cut out to be a roofer. We all knew that. So he says, hey, but come over. I was working at a call center because I was just in an hourly job again, just trying to just do the right thing, And he's like, come over here. You can help me with sales and marketing. And, I'm like, okay, cool, man. Hey, Mom, I'm moving to Pittsburgh. What? What if he can't pay you every month? He just started that business. I'm like, I'll just get another job, Mom. I'm really good, Mom, at getting jobs. That's one thing you taught me. Put the suit on, go in, sell yourself. I got that down, Mom. I think I can get a job anywhere. I said, I'm just going to go hang out with Uncle Mark. We were in his basement, over on Fry Avenue in Finleyville. In his basement, crammed into this little room. I think Luke's bedroom was right next door. And I was just sitting there absorbing, and learning about commercial roofing. And that's kind of how I got into the roofing business, is just because I learned that. But what I learned from him was that was the first time I've ever worked in a small business. And, and then he eventually, a year later, probably because, my Aunt Michelle needed to get us out of the house, finally made him rent some space down in Monongahela, where there's some other businesses. And the Chamber of Commerce was next door. And, me, I didn't want to be sitting in the office. I'm going to be running around. I want to act all like a businessman, And so I got joined the Chamber of Commerce, and I started to really see and understand how small business worked. And then when I started to deal with customers, because, commercial roofing was great, and that's what his passion is, and that's what he knew. But we started getting into residential roofing. When I started talking to these homeowners, and contractors were just so terrible. And it was it's so easy. I don't even know I don't even know what you're talking. I can't believe somebody would take your money and not come back. I don't even understand. It's
mind-blowing.
I don't even understand it. And I'm like, all right, well, this is what we do. I didn't even have a sale. I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't even know what a difference between a 3-tab shingle and a dimensional shingle was. I was just out there selling my uncle, selling our story, just being good people, right? And but through the years, I worked there for 5 years. I just kept hearing, man, like nobody gets back to us. There's no customer service. There's none of this, none of that. And, eventually, I had gotten married at the time, and had a kid, and I was starting to get bored, and, commercial roofing just wasn't that exciting to me. And I wanted to just pursue residential. And then I just said, and I didn't want to work. He wanted me there at 6 a.m. to go run materials and work till 7 o'clock at night, do whatever I had to take, And because, me and my cousin Luke, we're responsible because he knows he can count on us, right? And for me, it wasn't on the roof stuff. It was like, hey, go take this to this guy, or go drive 2 hours, go pick up this 2x4 and run it to your cousin. I'm like, man, okay. Like I'm just trying to do the right thing. And it's like, I just knew that I just wanted to be out, talking to people. I couldn't help it. I just wanted to be with people. And, so then I started my own residential roofing company by myself. Obviously I had some contacts in the business, some vendors and stuff like that. And I remember our supplier, he opened me up with a credit line of $5,000, and I was tickled pink, man. I think I had I didn't have that much money to my name, and I was like, cool, I got some credit, hope I don't screw this up. And, yeah, that's just where it started. And for the first year, knocking on doors.
How long did you work there?
So I was at Schlegel Roofing from about 2010 to end of 2015. So about 5 years, 5.5 years.
Longest job?
Longest job I ever had.
Congratulations.
And now at Big Fish, it's been over 5.5 years. So it's just, now it's the longest job again. So now it's boom. But it's, it's been an interesting journey. The first year I was, I found, what do you do first? Do you find the crew, or do you find the customer? So it was really interesting because I knew how to run ads. And in between, when I was working at Schlegel and I started my own company, I still knew I wanted to do more. And that's when Facebook started coming out. That's when social media, I wasn't really big into, I was a late adopter to Facebook. I called myself a late adopter. I probably didn't really get involved with it till 2012, 2013. I wasn't one of those college kids, you know?
Yeah, and that was just networking back then.
Well, and that Chamber of Commerce that I was on the board for, they didn't have a social media, that presence at all. I'm like, oh, you guys need a social media presence. I can help you with that. So I started their Facebook page, just because I was a nice guy, and I was just like, oh, I was into it. I was, I didn't have anything to personally promote really, so I figured, we'll promote all these other businesses. Well, then my buddy Stefan moves in across the street at Italian Village Pizza. He's old school Italian guy, and I love him to death, but he really doesn't have any tech skills, back then. And I was like, yeah, man. He's like, dude, you got to get on this Facebook thing. You got to get on this Facebook. I can help you with that. Watch this. Hey, do this. Because I was doing it for Schlegel a little bit. And, my uncle's a little old school. He didn't really appreciate the value of it, I don't think. And who knows if he ever will, but that doesn't matter. Stefan's like, hey, I'll do this for you. I'm going to show you. I'm going to do it for a couple months for you. I'm not even going to charge you. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Didn't even want any money. Well, I started doing it. He started, it's fun seeing people comment on your stuff and liking your stuff because, you're only used to the complaints. No one ever calls a pizza shop and says, oh, hey, man, that was the best pizza ever.
Right.
They always, hey, where's my pepperoni, man? It's like, oh, the delivery driver, the cheese is slid all over the place. They don't ever nothing. I said, it's going to make you feel good. So that way, when you have that angry customer, you're not going to get angry back at them, because you're just going to see a lot of love, Yeah. So I started working with him for a little bit. Well, he was super fascinated by it. He started paying me. He's like, dude, I gotta give you something. I said, all right, give me $300. And he had 2 stores. I got $600. Doing that, selling roofs, just doing my thing, And then his uncle, Mr. Veltri, I think saw that we were doing that, and then I started doing it for some of their other stores. And so then I had 6 Italian Village Pizzas that I was doing. I started this whole company. I started an LLC. Didn't even know what I was doing. But my wife at the time was an attorney, so I was like, hey, I got to start this because I want to do it right, and I want to run the business like this. And I knew I had the business mind. The wheels were turning, I saw my uncle. I was super fascinated with, because he's just like me to a degree. He came from the same place. We got the same, his mom's my grandma. It's like, yeah, I can visualize it now. Mm-hmm. He's not some celebrity. He's like a real person, and he lives the life that he wants. He goes on more vacations and has more fun. And at the time, he was the most fun person I've ever met in my life. Yeah. And I just try to be more fun now. Yeah. Because it's electrifying, and I want people to see that through me. And that's how the marketing thing started with Fisher Marketing. And then when I started my own business, I was too lazy to get another LLC. So I just kept Fisher Marketing LLC doing business as the Big Fish Contracting Company. So when my employees get their paychecks, it still says Fisher Marketing LLC because I'm not that smart to change it and do all that stuff. Plus it's what does it matter?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's interesting. If you, every business owner has a network, right? That they create through what their business, their service, their product is. And I think that's something I've really focused on my end, which is why what led me to the podcast, which led me to the marketing agency, which led me to, we're involved in a protein bar company now, and we have our hands in a bunch of things. And I realized that just like you did with the roofing company and the Chamber of Commerce and the people that you met is, how to do something or offer something or connect people or some service that you could capitalize on just by being you and knowing that you have the best interest in other people first and foremost, because he needed, the pizza place needed social media. You believed that it was a good move. So you're saying, okay, I take something that I believe in that I could take a little amount of time to invest my time to make extra money on the side, off hours or whenever it was to get stuff done. And, that's the benefit of this. And that's why I've realized the power of networking, the power of what we've built is with the suits. The suits have been an instant networking tool for me. I don't care if I sell $100,000 a year in suits the rest of my life and that's all we do. The intangible stuff that comes from that will be tens of millions of dollars down the road. And it's progressed even more so in the last 24 months, the last 12 months. And now since the pandemic has launched everything for the business. So that's something I always encourage people to is, even if you do something, right? Say you're an employee somewhere and you're working your 9-to-5 job and, you're capped at making a certain amount of money and you may get your 2%, 3%, 5% raise annually. Maybe there's something else that you have out there that's a network or something that's an offshoot of your business that you're working on that you can maybe make another $500 a month in, or $100 a couple, whatever the number is. So I always encourage people to think about opportunities, think about what's actually out there, and figure out how do you turn something that doesn't really take time away from something else or doesn't hurt you or hinder you, because what you learn from that is a lot. I would assume the Facebook side of that, when you started the marketing side of the business and you started doing those, that probably helped you understand things with your own business and it made you look at things differently. And they're all educational components of self-growth. And I think with business and being an entrepreneur, if you stop wanting to learn, you're never going to get to where you want to go. And the story thus far that you've told is you've learned something from every experience that you've been in. And that's one thing that I don't think people really value, or a lot of the times they're so naive to not pay attention. So self-awareness to me is the most important and powerful characteristic that somebody can have, because it makes you become a chameleon with different people. It makes you blend in with different social groups, different scenarios, different situations. And I love hearing that stuff because a lot of the things that I've done are very similar, and any other successful person that I know, they all operate the same way. And that's just keeping an open mind and an open opportunity to network, grow, whatever you have to do.
Yeah, self-awareness is big, and I'm still developing that. And, there's a book out there called Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and I don't remember the author, but I'm sure it's an easy one to find. It talks a lot about, the psychology of people and how to speak to people. And because I'm so outgoing and because it's always been natural for me to, I can go into a crowd of 100 people and just make every single person my friend. And, and like you said about learning from people and experiences, I always take the good from people, put that in my piggy bank, and then the bad, I forget it, and I don't even but I don't blame it. I don't talk bad about anybody, because guess what? That's just through their eyes. I'm just molding. If I take 100 people and I take half the good, but I take all those good parts, and that just keeps my vision just keep on going. It's so bright and shiny, because I just discard the bad. It's kind of like deleting email. It's like, if you don't need it, just delete it.
Yeah. I'm
really bad at that, but I got to get better organized. But the psychology behind, when I started seeing people and how they react on social media, and the psychology of a customer, and through all my sales training through the first, my 20s, I learned all that. And then when I got into small business and talking to actual real life homeowners, not just from a corporation standpoint, where they just need service. And then with all the bad things that were happening in the economy and the political climate and all this craziness out there, and how just awful people can be to each other, it's like, all right, well, I know it's out there. I'm going to ignore it. I'm just going to keep keep focused, and just keep trying to serve other people. Because I've learned so many things from, especially my family on how to do the right thing. We have another core value at the Big Fish Contracting Company is integrity. We practice honesty and do the right thing in all situations, from showing up on time to giving more than we take. And we value our reputation and our relationships. Well, most of that comes from my mom and my uncle. My grandma. I'm sure my grandma had those. She just didn't write them down and put them with cool graphics, right, like I do at my company. But yeah, that's where it all comes from. And then you just take little situations. And it's funny because talking about at the roofing company with my uncle, because we both know him, I'll never forget. And I always remember watching your journey, even because I remember you as a kid. And then I'll never forget, you showed up in the office one day with this stupid tie. And I'm like, and you were trying to sell my uncle like this tie. You're like spearing threads, and you're like, yeah. And I'm like, look at this guy. Like, I knew him when he was a kid, and like, look, he's trying to get out of this sales job, and like, he's gonna launch a tie company. I want to do something like that. Yeah. Like, I want that.
I forgot about that.
That sounds so cool, man. Like, I'm like, that was so cool. And like, it's just weird how full circle it is, and like how we were even here today. And then, you talked about digital blueprint marketing, working with Chris and Derek. I mean, those guys have been tremendous in my business because, again, I get bored. Like, I love the creative side and I love that digital side. But just like with the pizza shop, like, I got bored helping him with his marketing. I had to teach him. I said, Stefan, I can't do it no more, man. And I'm like, there's nothing else for me to do here. Yeah. Like, just copy everything I did for the last 2 years and just like repost it if you can't come up with your own stuff. But it's not hard, man. Just be passionate about what you do. And, he loves it now. He does it himself because, he has 2 stores. He's not trying to grow bigger. He wants to golf, spend time with his kids, family, coach, which is awesome.
Sharpen his current situation.
Yeah. And because of the pandemic, his pizza business even went up. So he's actually working a little bit more in his 2 businesses. But man, that's just a money generator. They have systems and processes and that's good enough. Like, he doesn't want to start 85 million pizza shops. Me, I get bored. I get, I'm ADD, I just never took the Ritalin,
Yeah.
And thank God, because like they try to in school, like, because the teacher just does not want to deal with a guy like me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know you talked about, doing some stuff with the schools and stuff like that. And I know we're getting all off track, but, TJ asked us to do the incubator thing, over the last couple of years. And it's like, we just need to do more of that stuff because we want to blossom these young guys,
I think the one of the coolest things that I've ever experienced, and I'm sure for you too, it's like, hey, there's different currency that you have to keep in mind, right? And not all currency is equal, and not all currency is actual money. I think relationship currency is extremely valuable. I think hey, David, when things were really tough back in 2016, 2017, what kept me going was, hey, man, I bought the suit off you. It's the best suit I've ever had. And it's like, oh, shit, yeah. And that suit, at that time, I could have lost money on it because I didn't know what I was doing. All the alterations, the mistakes, the reorders, the manufacturing that we had that I thought was good at the time that ended up being total dog shit. So it's like, that's what's awesome is the couple things, the experience, the life lessons, everything that you grow, just mold you to understand that you have to continue to get better, develop, grow. But, talking about the neckties and so before that, I don't talk about this actually too much, but I had a necktie company with my brother and 2 other buddies from college who I don't talk to those 2 gentlemen anymore. And that necktie business actually put a pretty big strain on my brother and my relationship for a little bit. And what I realized at that time was it's a hobby for them. And my vision was I wanted it to be my career or an opportunity for me to become wealthy. For them, it was like, hey, every Monday we'd have a meeting and then I'd get a text an hour before the meeting. Hey, can we do it Tuesday or can we do it Wednesday? Something came up. And I would get so frustrated. I'm like, can't you just keep this schedule? You're not that important. You're not that busy. Nobody's that important. And then that was okay, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to do it alone. That was I remember that very vividly. And it was tough to understand that, the self-reliance, self-awareness to say, hey, this isn't going to get any further by doing it. It's only hindering my growth and my time. So I think, a lot of this stuff with your initial comment, the incubator that Thomas Jefferson High School that we did a program with, I love helping people. There's nothing more rewarding than that. And if I can help somebody achieve the fulfillment of what I experience on a daily basis. That I woke up at 5:45 today, did my meditation, stretched, went to the gym. 8 a.m. we're here for a podcast, right? And I loved it. And it's a Saturday, and I'm looking forward to repeating it on a Sunday. And so if every day feels the same to me and every day feels awesome, I'm going to Florida on Monday for 5 days for some networking stuff. I'm going to have dinner with a couple NFL players. I'm going to go do some business with some high-end entrepreneurs. And I'm going to get out of the snow for 5 days because I built an opportunity and a vehicle to allow me to do that stuff. So every single day I have are conversations like this, which I just love. I love business. I love education. I love growth. And I love helping people. And I think you're big on that. I mean, you've donated to all of our fashion shows. You're always involved in different things. So the giving back aspect of business is so rewarding. And I think you're one of the few, and there are a lot of people that do it, but I appreciate all you've done and even helping my business grow. How many suits have you bought? I mean, not every suit was perfect. I remember the first one you probably still hate me for.
Yeah, I don't even think I have that one anymore. I think I wore it once. I'm like, it just doesn't fit right. But you know what? Your commitment to it, your never giving up, like the journey, like I'm buying you, man. I'm not buying your suit. Yeah. I mean, I'm buying you. And because I appreciated your hustle. And I'll never forget that day you walked in with that tie, and I'm just like, wow. Like, I feel like I owe you the rest of my life. I want to give you way more value than you give me. And about money, yeah, I was chasing the money because that's what everyone told me, and I thought, and I believed it. But then, and when I started my own company, I was like, okay, like I just need enough money to pay my little mortgage, pay my truck payment, make sure that my wife and kid have enough. And like once that happened, and then it just took off. And then it was never about the money. It hasn't been about the money for 3 or 4 years now. It's all about helping people. It's all about how it started out helping my customers, that's all I cared about was helping my customers and value my reputation because I don't want to embarrass my mother because I've already embarrassed her enough. There's been enough heartache, in my life, with losing the jobs and different things that happened. And, I just want to make her proud, and I also want to prove that yeah, I can do it, and you can, you just got to keep going every day. And it is a lonely road. It's a very lonely road. I know me and you've had many, many talks. 2:00 in the morning, I call you up and be like, man, is it that hard, bro? Because it's hard, man. It's hard. And there's really no one to talk to. Like me and you, I don't really have any, there's a lot more that are coming up now, which is nice to see because now we're starting to build a network of guys like us. But 3-4 years ago, I mean, and again, because I was so busy and you're so busy, it's like, man, sometimes I said, we should do this once a day and we probably should, and I think networking groups are important, especially the right ones. There's a lot of bad ones out there, so don't go to those ones.
There's a ton of bad ones.
But yeah, when it's not about the money and it's about something bigger than that, and I always tell the employees at Big Fish Contracting and anywhere else and the customers, listen, I'm worried about 3 generations from now. I have a son, his name's Sammy, he's 6.5 years old. It's like, I want to create a legacy that no matter what he wants to do, if he wants to be that astronaut, because that's what he wants to be. It's funny you said that. We got astronaut stuff in his room.
That's awesome.
Listen, if I can go out and help all these people and I can afford to send them to Cape Canaveral Space School, great. If I can send him to Carnegie Mellon because he's into Minecraft and video games, and if he wants to learn Mandarin because I know that's going to be a big deal one day, hey man, I have the opportunity to be able to afford that to him to where I don't even care what he does. Because I know I'm not going to put them in a box. Not that it was wrong that everybody else done that. They just didn't know anybody. They just didn't know, and they didn't, it's fear. Fear drives all of us. There's a lot of things I'm still fearful for. Why don't I have a Big Fish Contracting company in every city in America? Because I know it's a great business. I know it works. All you have to do is treat people right. Well, you got to find the right people, and it's hard to find the right people that have those same core values because it can get away from you quick. I'm sure that there's been stories in your business and there's some stories in my business where, if you get the wrong character in, man, now it's whew, that's why it's a lonely road because it's man, the big fish, your name's really on it. David Allen, it's yeah, there's no mistake in that. We're not going to hide. We can't hide from that brand, right?
Yeah.
And the reason we did the brand, I don't know, I've never talked to you about this, but it's accountability. When I put my name, the Big Fish Contracting Company, and it's funny how I came up with it, marketing, I was like, every contractor in America just has their last name and whatever they do. I'm like, well, that's kind of boring. That's not memorable. I was like, I want to create something fun, and I remember back in the day, I would always hear people call my dad, hey, Big Fish, hey, Big. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I was like, I think I want to do that. And then everyone, because I was testing the idea out, and everyone's like, well, they're going to think that you like sell fishing equipment or you run a restaurant. Or I was like, yeah, maybe at first. I said, but if I stick to it and I provide great customer service, at least in Pittsburgh, they'll know. Yep. And maybe not all of them. I still get it every once in a while. Oh, I thought you were like are you that restaurant on the north side? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, sir. But I appreciate it. But now it's like, we had 10 calls yesterday, for gutters, leaking over their ice dam and, because of the snow and ice we have. It's just like, it's amazing. Last year, my company was set up to the fact I probably only really worked in the business maybe 10 or 15 hours a week, because we got a great team of people. I've tried to teach them one at a time, like how to do it. Yeah. Do we have struggles? Yeah. Every once in a while. Yeah. Do I got to get back in there every once in a while, get everybody fired back up? And yeah, that's me. I'm the visionary, right? I don't even like to use the word CEO anymore.
Yeah. I don't either.
So I'm done with the labels because all that does is create ego.
Yep.
It felt cool at first, man, because like, hey, Mom, I made it. I wrote on my own business card. I paid $20 for these business cards. CEO.
Yeah.
Like, because it just, but like that's for the wrong reason. So I stopped that, I'm the visionary, because I want everyone at my company to know, hey, I'm just like you. I came from more humble beginnings than some of my people that work for us now. Yep. Half the people that work for Big Fish Contracting, they have college degrees, they got master's degrees. I'm like, wow, you guys are a lot smarter than me, kind of, I guess, book smart, maybe. They sat through, they showed me they could sit through school for, 6 years, which is a very huge accomplishment. I still have it on my bucket list in a weird way because like, I just want to do it. I just can't sit still, man.
Don't waste your money.
I got to keep going. Oh, it's not even about the money. I can't sit still.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to, because I just want to check a box.
Yeah.
But it's like, why? It's like, it's not me. It's okay. Yep. It's okay.
So we're coming to the end here and I need to have you on again because we could probably sit here for honestly another 4 or 5 hours. These are the conversations that I really genuinely enjoy, and I get to relive my last 5 years as you're talking, and I hear different things. But I think couple things here. One, where can people find you? Where can people follow you? Talk a little bit here to finish up about your business and things that you offer, so we make sure that we can get that on here, because your story is so unique and so great, and your product. I mean, I've referred a handful of people to your business, and it seems like everybody that you've worked with, I've not had one negative thing come back. The reviews have been incredible. I know I think you did my sister's house, and then all of a sudden the neighbors and a couple other people. And
I can't even count, man. Like, I wish I could, and then when you send them to me, I just send them to my people, and like my people take care of your people, kind of thing. It's like, and sometimes I feel bad, and it's like I can't even keep up with it anymore because it's so much bigger than myself. Yeah, which is awesome.
But kudos to you for I built my brand off of customer support and just doing what's right and taking care of people. So kudos to you, because again, contractors, and for whatever reason, there's a lot of negative connotation around them, and you've done a hell of a job with that. So
thank you.
Where can people follow you if they need something from you? Maybe go over some of your services, and then we'll get into the final comments here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty basic. I love social media, but I don't really do it as much as I know I could. I'm just Benny Fisher on Facebook. I don't even know what my URL is. I'm pretty terrible at that.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so focused on helping other people, and
we'll put it all in the show notes and everything.
You can go to my website, thebigfishco.com. That's the company website, and you can always go in do a quote form. Even though if you don't need a roof, you just want to talk to me, just put, hey, I want to schedule a meeting with Ben Fisher. I always will schedule any time for anybody about anything,
awesome.
Just because I want to be helpful. And I don't know where my path is going to take me. I know I want to open up some locations in other parts of the country. I'd love to open one in Canton, Ohio, where I came from, just so I can put a billboard up, just to say, hey, man, I did it. But that's selfish, like I don't want to do that. But like I just do want to do a company over there, so that way I can help some people over there that may be looking for an opportunity, or customers that are looking for a good contractor to take care of them. We specialize in residential roofing, so roofing and gutters. Do a little bit of siding, but mostly shingle roofing. So anything that related, I can help you with. I do some webinars and some things like that with the national brands, with GAF. I'm a master elite contractor. Beacon Roofing Supply is one of our suppliers. Company Cam, Hover. Those are some of the technology and the apps that we use that I've been kind of thought as a thought leader to try to help that innovation, because we're always trying to get a little bit better. There's a book called Legacy by James Kerr. It talks about the New Zealand rugby team. It's the most successful team in the history of the world. I think they win like 87% of their games, and it's a great book. It's actually the first book that someone told me to read, and I'm not a reader because I can't sit still, but I do read articles, quick articles. But this is the first book I read in like probably since high school, and this was about 4 years ago. And I read that book, and then I caught the book fire, man. And then I started reading everything. I was reading, Grant Cardone, and I love, listening to the podcast. Joe Rogan, super entertaining because he's so versatile and he has everybody on, and he's just like, yeah, I never thought about it until you mentioned his name. It's like, yeah, I like his style, I like his personality. I like the fact that it's not just about, I guess everyone thought of him as UFC or a comedian, right? Oh man, he's so much more than that. He's like, yeah, like I'm not a roofer. Like I don't want anybody to think I'm a roofer. I'm in the customer service business. I'm in the helping business. And now it's not even just about customers. It's about, who can I help, especially, our employees. Can I help their families? Anytime there's an opportunity, you just tell me what your goals are. Like, it doesn't matter what my goals are. It just matters what your goal is. You give me a goal and we'll just work it backwards in intervals and we'll get you there. And it's I don't want to say it's easy, but you can't eat an elephant in one bite, so you just got to break it out in little chunks. And I really appreciate everything you and your team have done, especially at Digital Blueprint Marketing. I know the suit thing's fun for me, but I'm not a suit guy. I mean, I'm starting to become a suit guy, like when I go out of town and stuff like that, I'm trying to look cool.
Right.
But, a roofing company, it's like, I don't want to look too businessy, I want to look, like the people. But, I got like 6 or 7 suits, and, I lost 75 pounds, over the last year or two, and had to get all those taken in, and your Pittsburgh Taylor,
Ioannis Taylor.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love the dad and I love the son. And,
good people.
Yeah, and I love those stories. Those stories are even more incredible than our stories. And they just
40 years in business,
and they just don't realize it. Like it's like sometimes they're so humble, and they're like, and it's like, man, I could take someone like you, and we could collaborate. And because they work so hard and they're so focused.
Yep.
And I love that about their focus, because I have a million ideas, man. I could, after leaving here, there's nothing I feel like I can't do,
Yeah.
So I appreciate you having me on, man.
Of course. So in conclusion here, give me, a couple of different nuggets, a couple of different pearls as far as, look, you've worked in the corporate world, you've done this, you've done that. Give me a couple pointers that we can leave with people out here that allowed you to get to where you are. So some points of advice on whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whether it's your overall mindset on life. What are the top few things that allowed you an opportunity to put yourself in a position really for financial freedom, essentially, and to now see the bigger picture of that you could take this anywhere?
I mean, I think it starts with a great foundation. Me and you get really excited about talking about business, and sometimes, the kids out there listening to us, I don't want to be like I was when I was 18 and seeing all those guys at the car dealership, right, with the big houses and the fancy cars, and just chase that. And that was one of my mistakes. And I sometimes feel like, we have this platform now because it's so easy to put ourselves out there now with the way the internet is. And we have a responsibility to make sure we tell those kids, and even the adults, the 75-year-olds that want to go out and try something, hey, make sure you have at least a basic foundation of what that's going to take and what that means, because it's not as easy maybe sometimes as it comes off. And we were lucky, we both had great parents, we both had great moms, right?
Yeah.
Great moms, great dads that just they only knew what they knew, but it's still, that's our core, right? And you can't teach that, and some people don't have it as fortunate as we did. We might not have had any money when we were growing up, but we at least had good people around us, and it starts with that. Yeah. And if you don't have that, that doesn't mean you're destined for failure. That just means you might have to work a little bit harder and be more intentful and start learning about some of that stuff, but be humble and enjoy the journey, because what's going to happen is you're going to get knocked down 1,000,000 times, and if you can't get back up, and you have to and then you get dejected and you don't keep going, that's the biggest thing, and having a great attitude. And I think I was born with a great attitude, I guess. I don't think the world will beat you down. Luckily, something inside of me I just don't let it, and I don't know what that is. One of our core values at the Big Fish Contracting Company, great attitude. We've got approachable personalities. We value open communication and feedback. We have fun growing and wowing customers while remaining flexible and adaptable. And if you can't be flexible and adaptable in this day and age, you'll struggle, because it's going in different places. We talked about the Comcast thing a little bit, the subscription model, man. Hey, man, we can take $15 a month, man. We'll pay Netflix, $15 a month the rest of our life. Well, then we'll also pay Hulu $15 a month, and we'll pay ESPN $15 a month, and this company. But pretty soon we're paying more than we were for the cable company.
Yeah, for sure.
They're tricking you guys. They're tricking you.
The cable company probably owns all that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like you always want to exceed people's expectations. You want to give more value to people than they give you. You want to feel like you owe someone, and when you feel like you owe someone, like you just want to pour it out. It's almost like a game of hot potato. Like me and you, we play hot potato a lot.
Sure.
But it's true and it's real. It's not just fake. You know what I mean? Like I don't care if anybody ever buys one roof off of me. If you have a question about a roof and you just want to know, like I'll tell you exactly what I think as a consultant, and I won't even charge you because I don't care. Like I just want to help you, and somehow when you help people, it helps you be able to help more people. And you talked about money. Yeah, everyone's focused on money all the time because that's just the way our society is. I tell a story at work all the time. I have Sharpies on my desk because I like, writing in Sharpies. And I said, let's stop talking about money. Let's talk about Sharpies. I do something nice for you. You give me one of your Sharpies. You do something nice for me. I give you one. The Sharpies just exchange. I'm just stockpiling Sharpies. It's just a vehicle so I can give more Sharpies away. And then guess what? Somehow I get more Sharpies back. I can't get rid of my Sharpies fast enough. And when you have that mentality, it's not about dollars. I mean, to me, that's the easiest thing. Money is so available. Most people have a scarcity mindset. And when you have that mindset, when you think you can't go out and get the money, for whatever reason, guess what? It's not scarce. It's everywhere. And you gotta help people. In one way or another, this is probably bad, but like you can't even wipe your butt without have someone's help. Your mom had to help you. And guess what? Even today, I still got to go to the grocery store and someone's got to bring that toilet paper out. Like you need people and you got to be good with people and you got to smile and you have to have fun doing it. You have to enjoy the journey, so I'll leave it at that.
So in conclusion here, I think a couple, key takeaways. And I think for the last 5 or 6 years, myself and the team around us and everybody that we really try to keep in our corner, we put people before us. And we don't do it because we want something in return. I always tell people, even buying suits off me, there are certain people that have purchased off me because they want to tap into my network and expect things in return. And I could tell right out of the gate who those people are. Okay, cool. And I still treat them as good as I treat anybody. But everything that I do on a daily basis is how can I do something to help somebody else? And my mindset isn't that something's going to come back in return. My mindset is I don't need anything from anybody else. And I don't need that. I don't mean that from an arrogant standpoint. I mean that from I trust myself, like I said earlier, more than I trust anybody else. And I trust myself that I'm going to be able to figure a situation out. Any problem I run into, I'll figure it out. Any situation I run into, I'll figure out how to get on the other side of that. And I'm very fortunate, just like we talked about, that I had a great family. I have a great family and had a great family upbringing when it came to instilling core values in myself. And I carry those core values out into every single action that I have every single day. As I've grown in business and as I've been through more horrid stories in business, I've wanted to be even better of a person. And every bad situation that I've ever been into has made me become a better person and made me want to become a better person. I read more, I study more, I help more people. In 5.5, 6 years, we've donated over $150,000 to various organizations throughout Pittsburgh. And
that's awesome.
And I want that to be, I wish that was $1 million. I wish it was $10 million. And I can tell you just what you said. I didn't want anything in return, but the love, support, and friendships that I've made have become into my life tenfold by me taking care of other people. And I'll live my life, the rest of my life, doing better and helping other people way before I'll help myself. Because I have everything I need, and everything I need in my life is the mindset that I have. So I appreciate you being on here, man. We're gonna have you on again if I want to talk more about business stuff.
We could talk about the actual contracting world and the company. And then
sure.
I like sports cards and memorabilia, and I like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency.
And I just got into that now because
there's a lot of stuff that I like. I mean, I love this stuff. Me and you talked about maybe me trying to do this too, because I do have a lot of information to share and get it out on paper, and not even paper anymore. Get it out on audio and video, because it's like it's all locked up in my brain, you know? And again, I have these one-off conversations all the time. Like what we just did today. I mean, I do that 4 or 5 times a day.
Right.
Some people probably think I'm annoying because I can tell like they're just like it goes right over their head. But the ones that like the captivating, those are the ones I want to keep talking to because it's like, man, there's so much I can get out of that.
Yeah.
And when it's not about the, I remember the beginning of the show. You, where was I going to go with this? You said something about the money at the end. You can't you don't want to be 70 and be a millionaire. Yeah, you can't take it with you. When you die, no one's going to be like, you know, no one ever talks about, just say Steve Jobs and says, well, how much money he had. No way, man. They talk about Steve Jobs, about how he innovated and how he changed the world with the way that he uses the technology, and he changed everybody's lives.
Yep.
You know, some people could say for good or for bad. Hey, that's what you guys decide to do with it. But the tool that he gave the world, and that company's still giving, is just nothing short of amazing. And it's because you could tell he didn't do it for the money.
Yep.
He didn't do it for the money.
Well, thank you guys for listening. As always, this was a fun episode. Could go on for hours and hours, and we will here in the next upcoming episode when we have Ben on in a couple weeks or a couple months, whatever the time permits. But as always, thank you guys. Just keep doing good for other people. Keep putting yourself in a position to be able to help other people. And that's what makes the world go round. And I think especially in the climate that we live in with the political BS that's going on and all the other big business and government stuff that's happening, I think we need to rely on humanity a little bit more than we have in the past. So as always, thanks, man. Appreciate the friendship, all the support you've done for me over the last several years. And thanks again for having us. So check out Ben Fisher, Big Fish Roofing Contracting Company.
The Big Fish Contracting Company, because I wanted to keep it like that. I know we specialize in roofing and gutters, but just in case, this customer service contracting model takes off, we could do plumbing, electrical eventually. Listen, I like to stay focused though, so it's the Big Fish Contracting Company, but we do specialize in roofing.
He's all over the place, folks. One of the best entrepreneurs I know. Congratulations on all your success, and thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you soon.